spiritual healing from realization of oneness. Pure being. Number 1. Consciousness and man are one. Therefore, all the qualities of consciousness, purity, goodness, justice, love, and forgiveness are in reality qualities of man, just as the glass and tumbler are one. Number 2. Man is the form, and consciousness is the essence of his being. Consciousness is the substance and law of man's life, of his mind, of his soul, his body and his spirit. Number 3. Consciousness is not a power over evil. We have no power over evil. Number 4. We do not need a power over discord or disease, because these have no existence in consciousness, and if they do not exist in consciousness, they do not exist. Number 5. They can only exist as beliefs in human consciousness that believes in two powers. Number 6. Consciousness cannot give us life, because consciousness is eternal life, and its life is the life of our being. Number 7. There is no giving, and there is no withholding. There is only ising. Number 8. There is no need to want some particular person, thing, or circumstance, for we embody our good. Number 9. In the face of the appearance of discord, realize there is no power to sustain this, and no law of consciousness to maintain it. There is no power but consciousness. Then it must dissolve and disappear. Number 10. The first step in the spiritual path is to become aware of the invisible presence, to live always as if it were bearing witness with us, and if it were going before us. Number 11. Every kind of evil in international affairs will be dissolved, but it will be dissolved because there are now persons in earth knowing that these evils have no existence in consciousness, and therefore they have no existence or power. Number 12. Rest in the Word, dwell in the secret place of the Most High, always looking out at these forms or formations without hate, love, or fear, knowing that if they do not have their rise in consciousness, they have no reality, no substance, no law, no cause, no effect. Number 13. By abiding in truth, we watch as it dissolves and disappears. Number 14. Out of the consciousness of man must come all that is necessary for his fulfillment. Number 15. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Number 16. Whichever temple you destroy, I will rise it up again. Number 17. When man turns anywhere other than to the within essence of his own being for life, supply, health, success, harmony, he is turning to where it is not. Number 18. The most important part of our work in the infinite way is meditation, because no one has access to the inner sanctuary of his being, his inner consciousness, except through the listening ear. Number 19. Meditation is the practice of creating within oneself practically a vacuum in which the presence can announce itself. Number 20. Truth is within you, and you must open out a way for the imprisoned splendors to escape. Number 21. The only good, allness and fulfillment you are ever going to receive is from within your own consciousness. Number 22. When you look in the mirror, Remember, you are not seeing you are seeing your body. The self of you is the real you. Number 23. There is but one consciousness, and therefore there can be but one I. Number 24. Anything you do to another, you are doing to yourself, because there is one self, and I am that self. Lifting up the I. Number 1. Once we realize ourselves as I, separate and apart from personality and body, we will have the secret of eternality and immortality. Number 2. If we accept the world's belief in two powers, its belief in spirit and matter, then we are going to experience both good and evil. Number 3. We are constantly faced with good persons and bad persons, but we must accept only spiritual identity. Number 4. Spirit has no shifting, changing qualities. Its only quantity is infinity. Number 5. If we accept the world of appearances, we pay the penalty for that acceptance. Recognize these suggestions that come to us are appearances like the mirage in the desert. They are hypnotism that does not need to be healed, reformed, or corrected. Whatever is presented to us is a state of hypnotism, producing an illusion, a mirage. Number 6. We see through the mirage to reality. Number 7. Spiritual healing is not changing an evil condition into a good one. Healing is the changing of consciousness. Number 8. We are not dealing with a condition, but with a universal belief in a selfhood apart from consciousness. Number 9. In the infinite way, we never give a treatment to a person. We do not practice hypnotism or suggestion. Number 10. What we do when the appearance is brought to us is to go immediately to the eye of our being and abide there. Then we are quiet, and in a few moments a deep sense of peace comes. A click, a deep breath, something or other, and we know that consciousness is on the scene. Number 11. The substance of the illusion is always the same. It is a nothingness, the arm of flesh appearance. Behind it is the activity of a universal malpractice or hypnotism, which is produced by the universal belief in two powers. Number 12. The consciousness that does not respond to appearances, the consciousness that is aware of the spiritual nature of creation and of the illusory nature of appearances, is a healing consciousness. Number 13. The deeper you go into the healing consciousness, the more you find yourself living so in meditation that you do not have to go into a deep meditation with every claim that comes, because you're in it 9/10 of the time. From beyond words and thoughts, truth unveiled. Number 1. Death is not an experience, but an illusory sense that must be understood and seen through. Death is an experience only of corporeal sense, but death itself is never an experience of our true being. Number 2. When the truth reveals itself, it is not an activity of mind. It is soul revealing itself. Number 3. Your soul overshadows you. Number 4. Exercise. Rest back in this realization. Let my soul take over instead of my mind. Number 5. In all of us, there remains a finite sense of self, which in the last analysis must be crucified. It is the personal sense of I that must die. Number 6. Remember that this rising above the mind, above words and thoughts, does not eliminate the mind, words or thoughts, but it does eliminate living by them. The way of grace. Number 1. Contrary to all human belief, supply is the word of consciousness, and unless we are receiving the word, we are not receiving supply. Number 2. We are never separate or apart from our supply, because it is already within our consciousness. Number 3. Consciousness is the source of the substance that appears outwardly as gold, silver, trees, and all the good of this universe. Number 4. Exercise. Our first act, repeated throughout the day, and our final act at night, is consciously realizing the realm of consciousness within us. Number 5. The only requirement is opening consciousness to receive it. It is through the closing of our consciousness that we have shut out this grace. All that is necessary, therefore, to enjoy the infinity of supply without limitation is to recognize that supply is not material, and then to open consciousness to receive it. Number 6. Grace always interprets itself at the level of the experience of the moment in which we are living. Number 7. We have no right to outline the form grace is to take in our experience. Number 8. Omniscience knows all, and it knows all about every individual, because omniscience is the allness of every individual. Therefore, omniscience operates within us to reveal its plan for us. Number 9. We must open the only thing through and as which our source appears, our consciousness. Number 10. The ears are open to hear, the mind is open to receive, and what we receive is consciousness, the awareness and feeling of the presence. This is supply. When we receive this, it, in a way unknown to us, is translated in our human picture as food, clothing, housing, money, or whatever form it is that supply must take. Number 11. Real prayer is an opening of consciousness and then communing with Him. Number 12. In every department of life, we must constantly search, not to see how we can get something, but in what way we can pour. The damming up of supply results from our failure to pour in some manner. Number 13. We are spiritual, our needs are spiritual, our supply is spiritual, and because of our oneness with consciousness, it is all omnipresent where we are. Number 14. Grace is not dependent on something that we do or not do in the world. Number 15. Grace is not dependent on us first being virtuous. In any instant in which we realize our oneness, grace is upon us. We do not live by our brains or by our virtues. We live by divine grace. From God, the substance of all form. Developing a healing consciousness. Number 1. It must be clear that spirit, being the only substance, must be the substance and form of the body. Number 2. All action is the activity of consciousness. The body has no action of its own at all. Number 3. Life has no opposite, for life is infinite. There is no other life. Number 4. You are as young or as old as consciousness. The moment you think of yourself, of your age, you are thinking of a selfhood apart from consciousness, and then you are trying to treat an illusion. Number 5. Life never had a beginning and will never have an ending. Number 6. If we realize our true identity to be spirit, then the body is spiritual, and the body is as ageless as we ourselves are. Number 7. The truth has to be demonstrated by you individually through the conscious activity of your own awareness, a conscious activity of awareness. Number 8. Exercise. I am the same age I was yesterday. I am the same life, the same mind, the same spirit, the same body. Number 9. Consciousness, employing its own qualities and actions and intelligence and service, individually as you and as me, is the only employment there is. Number 10. Consciousness is the only employer and the only employee. Consciousness is always employed in great action, in great works, in great ideas. Consciousness cannot become the victim of mental and material conditions. Number 11. Your business will reflect the condition of your consciousness on the subject of business. You must consciously realize that business is an activity of consciousness operating through the instrument of the one mind, which is my mind. The last enemy. Number 1. We shall not lose our body, but we shall lose our false sense of body and come into the realization of the true nature of body. Number 2. Consciousness cannot be or remain unconscious. Number 3. The body does not have any intelligence with which to live or die. The body can only reflect or express the activity of our own state of consciousness. Number 4. Any disease appearing to be of the body is contracted through the activity of the human mind because of acceptance of universal beliefs. Number 5. Exercise. Realize this body is not a power over me. I, the divine consciousness of being, am the life and the mind, the intelligence and the directing power of this body. Number 6. Overcoming the world begins with our understanding of oneness, with the realization that all that is pouring through me is the life, health and wholeness of consciousness. Number 7. Consciousness is forever unfolding, disclosing, revealing, manifesting, and expressing itself as individual consciousness. Number 8. Our own consciousness is the power of resurrection. Number 9. Consciousness is forever revealing itself as our individual being, and spirit must appear or manifest as form. Gaining a consciousness of God. Number 1. The purpose of this work is to quicken the unfolding of consciousness as your individual consciousness. Number 2. To attain happiness or peace, to attain peace of mind or a sense of wholeness and harmony, means, first of all, to stop running around, stop trying to get something, and rather learn to listen and sit quietly, to meditate, and to ponder within yourself the realities of being, and then let this happiness come. Number 3. Nothing can be added to you. Nothing can be taken from you. There is nothing out there separate from us to be attained. Number 4. The allness of health, the allness of harmony and abundance, and the consequent nothingness of any power to obstruct the operation of this allness. Number 5. To learn to change our consciousness is really and truly the purpose of our work, because whatever is discordant in our experience is but our erroneous consciousness of that which is appearing. Number 6. Your own consciousness governs your life. Number 7. The more the mesmeric suggestion or universal belief in a separate selfhood grips you, the more will your demonstration be governed by world consciousness. Number 8. World beliefs have no power over you. Your consciousness of being is the law unto you. From Living Now. The power of resurrection. Number 1. Power does not exist in that which has form or effect. Power is in the consciousness that produces the form or effect. Number 2. The life of man is not in effect, but in consciousness. Number 3. Every time we give power to a person, thing, or condition, our consciousness is showing forth its conditioning, and to that extent we become victims of it. Number 4. The power of resurrection lies in love, and it is only in loving that resurrection can come, not in being loved. Number 5. Companionship and understanding are not to be found, they are to be expressed. Number 6. There is no other reason for staying on earth than the opportunity to love. Number 7. The love you are seeking is the love you must give. Number 8. Live constantly in the awareness of the dominion given to you, and therefore do not fear anything or anyone external to yourself. Open up ways for a greater expression of love to flow out from you. Number 9. All this world that we are confronting is within us. Number 10. The basic principle emphasized in the infinite way is that there is neither good nor evil, but thinking makes it so. Only the universal sense makes it seem so. God endowed dominion. Number 1. Evil does not originate in the patient's thought, although he may permit himself to become an outlet for it. All evil of any nature has its origin in the universal or carnal mind. Number 2. Everything that is visible, everything that is made of a substance that is invisible. Number 3. There is only one problem, a universal belief in a selfhood apart from consciousness, a power apart from consciousness, or a presence apart from consciousness. Number 4. The error is in a universal belief that there is a mortal man or that there is a condition or creation apart from consciousness. Number 5. After the error has been impersonalized, there is a second step, and this is called nothingizing, making nothing of it. In other words, realizing that God did not create the evil condition. Number 6. A person can believe that there are ghosts in a room, but the ghosts do not have reality. Number 7. You experience lack, limitation, and discord only because there is a universal belief in its reality and power. Number 8. Consciousness is the only power, and besides consciousness there is no other power. The only power there is spiritual power, and nothing else is power. Number 9. You may feel a person is to blame for your troubles, but the truth of the matter is that the trouble arose out of your acceptance of the universal belief in a selfhood apart from consciousness. Number 10. You are an unfolding consciousness, and you will continue to unfold into infinity. Number 11. Error exists only as an illusory appearance. Number 12. We have to leave the realm of mind and body and find our good in consciousness. But since the realm of consciousness is invisible, no proof or sign that this is true can be given in advance. Number 13. We have to stop looking to the world for our happiness and realize that wholeness in every department of our life is embodied in our individual consciousness. Number 14. Exercise. I find the harmony of my being in my consciousness, and it is the harmony of my body and of my human relationships. From the Contemplative Life. Conscious awareness. Number 1. The spiritual way of life, our first step, is to disregard temporarily our concern for things, persons, and conditions, and center our attention on a conscious realization of our source. Number 2. We are already one with our life stream. Number 3. The reason harmony does not come into our experience lies in the word consciously. Nothing can transpire in your experience except as an activity of your own consciousness. Number 4. The secret of the spiritual life is to recognize consciously our oneness with our infinite, immortal, eternal source. Number 5. Exercise. I am one with my source, and all that is flowing forth from my consciousness is flowing into my experience. Number 6. Until we consciously do this, we are not experiencing that which is our birthright. Number 7. The presence of consciousness is closer to us than our breathing, and the responsibility for bringing it into active expression in our lives rests with us. Number 8. Dwell in conscious awareness of this truth. Those who abide in this realization consciously find that when any form of discord comes into their experience, it dissolves and disappears. Beginning the contemplative life. Number 1. There is only one creative principle, and it is located within all. Number 2. The presence of consciousness is within you, whoever the you may be. Number 3. Consciousness cannot come to you, it must be permitted to flow out from you. Number 4. Supply is demonstrated, not in the getting, but in opening out a way for the supply already within you to flow out from its source, which is within you. Number 5. Whatever it is we are seeking, we must find a way to give it out. It is the givingness of ourselves that brings the givingness of the universe to us. Number 6. By your thoughts and actions of today, you determine the reaping of tomorrow. Number 7. There is nothing to do but make yourself a transparency through which the light that is already within you can shine. Number 8. It is always there, but your enjoying the benefits of it is dependent on your knowing the truth of its omnipresence. From conscious union with God, teaching the message. Number 1. There is no change in the outer scene until there is a change in our state of consciousness. Number 2. Spiritual teaching is not the transfer of thought from one individual to another. Number 3. The reason for living the Sermon on the Mount is not for the sake of being a good human being, but because you realize that the other self is you, and you are the other self. Number 4. There is only one being, and every person you meet represents your concept of that one, individually expressed. Questions and answers. Number 1. Consciousness is not a mental activity. Consciousness does not reason or think. It is just aware. It is just a state of is. Number 2, we become aware that we are spiritual, that sin, disease, and death are illusions, just nothingness or mesmeric suggestion. But we do not go through any mental process to make it so. Number 3, it is only with inner spiritual discernment that we can look through the human appearance and see the reality which underlies that appearance. Number 4, a state of receptivity reveals the truth to you. From The Master Speaks. Number 1, when the mortal, the human being, the planner, has faded out of existence, and you are witnessing the activity within, you are watching consciousness work in you and through you and as you. Number 2, in other words, the human mind is less active as a thinking apparatus and more active as a state of awareness. Number 3, we do not annihilate ourselves or destroy our individuality in this way. We increase it. Number 4, you must overcome personal selfhood. Number 5, consciousness appears as the allness of you when you have overcome the temptation to be concerned about the little I and are no longer taking thought for that little self. Number 6, the transformation that is necessary is a complete about-face to where thought is focused on our consciousness and the ability to let the consciousness flow forth. Number 7, all power is in the consciousness of my being, and it not only knows my needs before I do, but it has the love necessary to provide whatever is needed. Number 8, consciousness is forever fulfilling itself as our individual experience. Number 9, keep thought steadfastly on consciousness, continuously on the source and substance, and not on the effect in which or as consciousness is to appear. Number 10, your own state of consciousness will always be made manifest as your experience, and no man can take that away from you. No man can take your consciousness away from you. Number 11, we must be willing to train ourselves to be conscious of presence instead of seeking some form in which consciousness is to appear. Number 12, the antidote for the world's troubles is the conscious awareness of consciousness as omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, the reality of being. Number 13, once we, as individuals, have proved that there is a spiritual power which heals our personal ills, lacks, and limitations, we shall begin to see that there is a spiritual power which can overcome any evil in human society. Number 14, consciousness manifests itself as our individual being. Number 15, in every moment, consciousness is imparting itself to you, within you, in an individual way, as guidance and direction, as a healing agency, as well as a supporting and supplying agency. Number 16, wherever you go, consciousness is present within you as your everything of this existence, awaiting your recognition. Number 17, the consciousness of any and every individual never dies. Number 18, the purpose of this teaching is to make consciousness evident and real to you individually as a living experience. Consciousness is a living experience. Spiritual existence. Number 1, exercise. Acquire the habit of never doing anything without first opening consciousness to the inflow of spirit. Number 2, you will feel yourself to be an avenue through which all of the spirit continuously pours itself. You can almost feel how it flows out from the center of your being. Number 3, spirit's manifestation of its own being has always existed. Number 4, Our individual being, our spiritual identity, will continue to be individual you and me until all mortal concepts disappear and we realize the spiritual universe. Number 5. Once we have the conscious feeling of the presence, it lives our lives for us. But there must be a conscious union and awareness of presence, a conscious oneness, at-one-ment. Number 6. Consciousness is spirit and has no awareness of human pictures. Number 7. Exercise. Abide in the center of your being and rest content in your conscious oneness with soul. Number 8. Be intent in learning the true nature of cause rather than demonstrating effect. Number 9. Reach the state of consciousness in which you no longer take the mental sword of criticism, judgment, or condemnation. When the time comes, your consciousness will have become the light of the world, because in it there is neither love, hate, nor fear of error. The allness of God. Number 1. The primary purpose of this work is to bring forth our true identity as spirit. Since consciousness is all, then consciousness must express itself, manifest itself, as you and as me. Number 2. Consciousness is not in our physical body, but consciousness is within us, in the sense that consciousness is our own being. Number 3. Most metaphysical teachings teach that you are an idea of God, but the infinite way teaching does not agree with that concept. Number 4. The basis of our work is oneness, omnipresence. In this oneness is your completeness. Number 5. There is no power acting upon you. Life, soul, is the only power. Number 6. There is only one reason why anyone has ever experienced sin, disease, death, lack, or limitation, and that is universal, mortal, or human belief. Number 7. The human mind is an avenue of awareness of the truth of being. From man was not born to cry. Spiritual dimension. Number 1. I shall not fear any conditions existing in the world, for I and consciousness are one, and that consciousness is greater than he that is in the world. The consciousness within me does the work. Number 2. I in the midst of me is mighty. Number 3. I am the substance of your human life and the activity of it. Number 4. Dwell only in me. Number 5. There is no power outside of me that can act upon me. All power is within me acting upon this world. Number 6. Exercise. Every day we must practice letting infinity flow out from us. Number 7. Our real freedom is not freedom from anything, but a freedom from fear, from the body, from the purse, and from limitation of every nature. The meaning of prayer. Number 1. It is the state of consciousness that we express that returns to us. Number 2. Any form of good cannot come to us. It must flow out from us. Number 3. Truth, light, love, happiness, joy, peace, dominion, companionship, home, all these are established within us. Our only task is to let them flow out from us. Number 4. There is no way to pray other than to make of oneself a stillness, a quietness, peacefulness, and a listening ear. From Consciousness Unfolding. Meditation. Number 1. After we have had our few minutes of meditation and have achieved the click or feeling of the presence, we get up and go about our business. Number 2. The whole secret lies in attaining the actual consciousness, the actual feeling of the presence. Number 3. There is no presence or power apart from consciousness, and our assurance comes when we have felt it.